Story 1. The Knocking at 2:17. It was the third night in a row. Same time, same sound. Marla woke to the knock again. 3 short taps, deliberate, sharp, like a knuckle against wood. Her eyes found the glowing red digits of the alarm clock, 2:17 a.m. Every time. She lay still, not moving under the blanket, listening to the silence that followed. The first night she had thought it was a branch, maybe a gust of wind knocking something against the door. The second night she had been sure it was a prank, maybe some bored neighbor kid trying to get a scare. Tonight it didn't feel like either of those things. Her apartment was on the edge of town, at the far end of a row of half-abandoned duplexes. The streetlight outside had been dead for months, leaving her little patch of yard in pitch darkness. No one passed through here unless they had a reason, or nowhere else to go. She slipped out of bed quietly, bare feet touching the cold floor. The knocking didn't come again, but she could feel the weight of something just beyond the door. The peephole showed nothing but black. She knew the porch light worked. She had replaced the bulb 2 weeks ago. But outside, it was as if the light had been swallowed. Her hand hesitated on the deadbolt. Then, faintly, she heard it. A whisper. It was impossible to make out at first, just a dry hiss. But the more she strained, the more it began to sound like her name. Marla. Marla, open the door. She stepped back, heart hammering. The whisper didn't stop. It stayed constant, sliding under the crack in the door like smoke. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, but the idea of turning her back to the door was unbearable. The whisper changed. Not words now, a low, warbling hum, almost like someone singing a lullaby through their teeth. And then, abruptly, tap, tap, tap again. Against every instinct, she called out, "Who's there?" The humming stopped. Silence. Then, in a voice that wasn't quite hers but felt like hers, came the reply, "You." She ran to the bedroom, locked herself in, and called the police. They found nothing. No footprints in the damp dirt. No sign of anyone on the porch. The next night, 2:17 a.m. came again. And this time, the knocking didn't stop. Story 2. The tall man at the motel. Jared had driven for hours through the empty stretch of Texas highway before finding the faded sign. Motel Pine View. Vacancy. The parking lot was empty except for his car and a dented old truck. The manager, a tired man with nicotine-stained fingers, handed over a key without much conversation. Jared's room was at the far end, number 9, with its door facing a patch of dirt and nothing else. It was almost 1 a.m. when the sound started. Not a knock, but the faint drag. Story 2. The tall man at the motel. Jared had driven for hours through the empty stretch of Texas highway before finding the faded sign. Motel Pine View. Vacancy. The parking lot was empty except for his car and a dented old truck. The manager, a tired man with nicotine-stained fingers, handed over a key without much conversation. Jared's room was at the far end, number 9, with its door facing a patch of dirt and nothing else. It was almost 1 a.m. when the sound started. Not a knock, but the faint drag of something across the door. Metal scraping metal. He sat up in bed, listening. Another scrape, then a pause. He crept to the peephole and froze. A man stood there, impossibly tall, his head nearly brushing the top of the frame. His face was too pale, his eyes completely black. The man tilted his head in slow, unnatural increments, like a bird studying prey. Jared stumbled back, but the man spoke. Not loudly, not softly, but in a tone that slid directly into his ears. "You left it open." Jared glanced at the lock. It was engaged, but the man's long fingers slowly curled around the handle and pressed. The door rattled, the hinges groaning. "Don't make me wait," the man said. For an hour, Jared sat in the corner, clutching the motel phone, whispering for the manager. No one came. The scraping stopped just before sunrise. When Jared opened the door at dawn, the dirt outside bore deep, claw-like grooves leading away toward the desert. That night, he drove 300 miles to another motel and woke up at 3:08 a.m. to the sound of something dragging across the door again. Story 3. The last delivery. Elliot worked late shifts delivering groceries to rural addresses. It was good money, but the last stop on his route that night wasn't on the GPS, just coordinates and a note. Leave at the front door. The road narrowed to a single lane with no streetlights. The house appeared suddenly, an old, rotting two-story with boards over some of the windows. No lights on inside. Still, he hauled the box to the porch. Halfway up the steps, he heard breathing from the other side of the door, slow, heavy. He froze. "Delivery," he called, his voice too loud in the stillness. The breathing stopped. Then a voice whispered, "It's not for me." A pale hand slid out from under the door, long fingers twitching, nails blackened. Elliot dropped the box and ran to his car, but the engine wouldn't start. From the porch, the door creaked open. Something stepped out, but it wasn't human. It was tall, bent in half at the waist, its arms hanging so low they brushed the steps. Its head was wrapped in what looked like burlap, but holes had been cut where the eyes should be, and through them, 2 points of dim orange light stared at him. It moved slowly, but with every blink it was closer to the car. Elliot locked the doors, shaking, trying to dial his phone. When he looked up again, the thing was gone. The passenger door clicked open.